And welcome to the Midday Show. I am Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. It is Pop Culture Thursday. Some of you love this. Some of you could do without it, but we enjoy doing it. We're going to try to touch everything in pop culture. We're going to talk about entertainment, movies, the new James Bond, some new trailers that came out. We have a Young Frankenstein review for those of you who love the older movies. We're going to talk about social media. Trump has made a big announcement about his platform. And maybe do a little bit of conversation about where that's heading and what that means for social media. Sports, Major League Baseball playoffs, NBA opening night, Penn State's coming back. But before we get to all the trending topics in entertainment and pop culture, Mark, how are you feeling today?
Let's focus on me for a minute, just to start.
And we don't do that enough.
Part of the Young Frankenstein is because the CTL is doing a production of it that starts. What you said you have tickets for
I believe I'm going October 28th.
It opens Friday, right?
I think my tickets are for Thursday. My girlfriend's
Does it open tomorrow though? And then you're
maybe, I don't know. My girlfriend's going to hear this and she's going to make fun of me because I don't know when we're actually going. But
it's like it's here. So yes. The CTL, they always do a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah. I'm excited.
I had never seen it. I know you've touted this.
It is one of my favorite comedies of all time.
And I'd never seen it.
Okay.
And I knew that the show was coming, and I know some people in the show. So I was like, well, maybe I should educate myself. And I understand it's now 50 years old, and I understand I just didn't get it.
Well, let's start there. We can start there because we don't really have like a set agenda for today. This is one of the things that I've noticed when I tell people to watch it or that they should try to enjoy it. It is slower than your typical comedy.
Yes.
It is certainly, I mean this in the best possible Mel Brooks way. It is a drag. Like, it is not a fast moving, like we're going here, we're going there. And it's like, it is like we are slowly moving through this so that we can try to hit every pun and every, satire on the way there. That part of it has never bothered me. I know for other people I have told to watch it, it kills them. It's just too slow for them.
Well, and this is part of the problem with our addiction to our phone and wherever we're at.
Yeah.
I've found that unless it's a movie you really want to watch, that if it's something you think you should watch, or you've been playing it, if you aren't engaged real early,
yes,
and your phone is too much in your hand at the beginning, then there's this aspect of like, did I miss something?
Mm.
And I actually started this, got bored to tears. I picked it up at I picked it up at the library.
Sure.
It wasn't the James V, it was in Muncie actually, but it was in the library circuit. And so I had it for however many days. And I started it one night, got about 20 minutes in, said, I'm too tired for this, and went to bed. But then when I didn't pick it up when I started again, because I was like, I don't even really, did anything happen?
Right.
So I watched it again, realized not really that much happened. And, so I don't know. I don't know if it was just, this may also fall into the category of you had told me how much you loved it.
Sure.
And then I'm into it, and I'm like, I'm not sure what there is to love. So maybe if you'd have just been like, check this out, tell me what you think, I'd have been like, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
But
there is the comedy, the other part of it, and this is part like you either like Mel Brooks or you don't. A lot of the humor comes from conversation. Like it's kind of like slow dialogue, and then after the dialogue, there's a pun or there's like an out of the blue comment. There's a lot of build up to the comedy, and the comedy is not like knock your socks off comedy. It's like a dry pun here or there where you kind of go, huh, and then it's done. Like It's over. So I totally get it. I understand. I still, to this day, when I think of like improvisation and I think of like just kind of like splurting out lines and like trying things and throwing it off the wall, I just think it's so ahead of its time. I think back then when it came out, there was really not a lot like it. It just, the idea that you were going to have Gene Wilder and different people improvise and they were going to throw lines out and they were going to try to, like, that just wasn't how you made movies then.
I can imagine that.
And so I think at that time, and even as a younger kid being introduced to it, it was just, I've always appreciated it for kind of what it meant when it probably came out, and it was the first of its kind. So I sincerely enjoy it.
Well, there you go. I've heard the stage production is hysterical.
Okay.
Now maybe that's I don't know, but so I still think I'm going to go see it.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure when. I don't know how tickets are going, but it's one of those things. If you want to get tickets, you should get them, because once it starts going in and people go, oh my God, they loved it, and then all of a sudden it's gone.
Yep.
So, because there's only a finite number, even though they're doing however many shows. So, Young Frankenstein at the CTL coming up maybe tomorrow. It's here, I think.
Okay.
So, anyway.
Can we talk about James Bond?
Sure.
You and I have never talked about James Bond. Are you a James Bond? Like, where does your fandom, like, are you in? Are you out? Like, are you
Here's what's funny about it.
Okay.
I've seen a couple.
Mm-hmm.
They're cool.
Yeah.
When a new one comes out, I'm not like, oh my God, I need to go see it. Our news director, Carrie Pauling, their family watched them all one winter.
Okay.
And it was this, that was the family pride. Like every couple of days, they threw in a net, and they went to the beginning. They watched them all, and I've never watched one and been disappointed.
Yeah.
But this is a kind of a snobby thing for me. I like American movies much more than I like anything British or European.
Okay.
I know the accent's not a big deal about it, but I see all these movies like Jason Bourne, which I loved. I'm like, why'd they film this in Europe? Couldn't they set this in the... And I just don't... So those are things that I don't get. And I don't know if it's snobby. I don't know.
Well, I'm sure there is a sense of being able to relate to what you're seeing, that I'm sure, I don't know if it's a comfort thing, but I'm sure if you're watching an action movie and they're racing through the streets, or there is if you can relate to what a block or what a street block looks like in an American city, it's easier for you to conceptualize maybe what's actually happening. So I do, if that's where you're kind of going with that, I kind of get it.
The ones where they have thick accents and you have to work to listen, to understand, I don't like those.
See, what's the funny thing about that, because I want to circle back to Bond, some of my most recent shows that I've really enjoyed, forget accents, they're not even in, I watched Squid Games and enjoyed it, all subtitles.
Squid Games is subtitled.
Oh yeah, it's a Korean show. And then in the last 3 years, if I had to recommend a show to somebody, Money Heist is one of them, and that is all subtitles as well. So the funny part, two of my favorite shows in the last 2 or 3 years are, forget trying to hear accents. You're you can't even understand if you speak English. You're reading subtitles the whole time, and they're two of my favorite shows. Going back to the Bond thing, I always said that I never loved Bond, and then every time I watch a Bond movie, I don't look at my phone. I don't it's once I'm in a Bond film, everything else just kind of dissipates. So, but in a weird way, doesn't that mean you like it? You love it?
I don't. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything not to like.
Yeah, so I don't know why I always say I'm not a Bond fan, but every time I go to see one, I completely lose track of time and I'm just invested in that world. We went and saw the newest one that has been on delay forever. It was supposed to come out right after the pandemic had happened.
Oh, was it really?
Yes, they've kept pushing it back. Finally, it came out. I went and saw it. Really, really enjoyed it. It drags a little bit towards the end. Really fun. The first 30 minutes, you have no time. You're sitting there with your popcorn and you think you're gonna and all of a sudden 30 minutes goes by and you feel like you've seen a whole movie. It throws you into this world. With that being said, a spoiler alert, and I want to talk. Are you gonna see it? If I ruin this for you, are you gonna be upset?
What are you gonna spoil? You can't tell the ending.
Well, I want to talk about the James Bond character. In order to do this, I kind of have to give something away. So I want to give a spoiler alert, but if it's going to kill the movie for you, I won't.
Well, is it going to kill the movie for the audience?
Well, that's why I'm throwing a spoiler alert right now. They can plug their ears while I say this real quick before we dive in.
All right, go ahead. You give your spoiler alert, then I'll decide how stupid you are.
Okay, spoiler alert for this one. Bond, we already know that Craig is done after this movie. So at the end of this movie, you walk away with the assumption that James Bond has died. So I didn't give away kind of what happened, but you walk away, and that's kind of like the tone of the ending.
Just because Craig is done doesn't mean that
But
Bond
that's the
is
tone.
done.
Okay, but the tone of because I agree with you. But when you walk out of the theater, that is kind of the tone that they have left. They have left the tone, like they have left the idea that like James Bond is not alive. And that really, I don't understand why. I don't understand why they would do that. Why would they leave you? I mean, because it's not going to be like this miracle thing where like James Bond magically came back to life whenever they decide who the next James Bond is going to be.
Yeah, I get it.
So I'm not really sure there. I have thoughts about who should be the new James Bond. Do you?
Well, here, I'll give you this, because when my family and I during the pandemic watched all the Harry Potters again.
Okay.
I think we didn't finish. We got close.
Okay.
But it's one of those things. My oldest daughter and I watched when one of the new Star Wars was coming out, episode 8 or 9 or whatever. We went back to the beginning and watched all the first, and then the whole debate is which order do you watch the Star Wars in, but that's a different topic. But so it's interesting whenever you kind of do that. And I know for Carrie's family, when they watched all the Bond movies and they went through all the different people that played Bond, and they started at the beginning and worked their way up. And I was like, so like, what's your assessment after you've done this for, all winter?
Right. And
she's like, one of the things we realized is he sleeps with a lot of different women. I'm not so sure this was the right movie to be sitting down with the family to watch.
Sure.
So it's funny, like when you look at it as a whole, like on one movie, there's, he's the super guy, and then there's a woman, and then there's a different woman in every one.
Right.
He always gets the girl. So when you've got 35 movies, he's quite the stud.
Yeah. Well, this one's unique because, like I said, they kind of try to put a bow on it, but they don't put a bow on Craig. They kind of put a bow on Bond. And so that for me was because it's not like they're ending the franchise.
No.
Like the franchise isn't going anywhere.
No.
So I don't really understand the way they did it. I enjoyed the movie. It was worthwhile. I was just very kind of thrown off at the end of it as to how they kind of tried to put a bow on Bond. Because I think that's the whole point of Bond, he's endless. It's endless. There is no bow onto the character or the idea of him.
All right, so who do you got?
So you don't watch Ted Lasso. Roy Kent in Ted Lasso would be absolutely he would be fantastic. So if you've seen Ted Lasso, if you're a Ted Lasso fan out there, please just go type in Roy Kent into Google and just let me know if he should be the new James Bond.
So what is your age? How old is this dude?
Roy Kent. I mean, he's got it. He's middle-aged. He's middle-aged. I bet
so the next Bond
his
think's got to be
he's probably in his late 30s.
I don't think middle-aged is late 30s.
I mean, well, it used to be.
Maybe to you it is.
Yeah. Well, when you retire.
When you're 49, late 30s ain't middle-aged, buddy.
Yeah, well, you hope it's not middle-aged. That's what you're hoping
That's
for.
A good point. That's a very good point.
Yeah, so that's the Bond thing. So Vicky says they didn't retire 007 when Bond retired, so no longer a James Bond movie, but yes, a 007 movie. Yeah, so Vicky's right. In the movie, there is another 007.
But it has to be Bond, doesn't it?
We'll see. I mean, that's a good question.
Or his kid? Or one of his 35 illegitimate kids? Like, he has to have...
No, I mean, Vicky brings up a good point. Is the franchise 007 or is the franchise James Bond?
It's James Bond.
My argument would be the straight white male simplicity answer is that the franchise is about James Bond. But Vicky brings up a good point. If it's a 007 franchise, you can put a bow on James Bond.
You can try.
Move on to the next 007.
You can certainly try and see how it works.
That certainly makes a lot more sense. That's a good point. I didn't think of I never thought of it as 007. I always thought of it as Bond. Always.
Because that's what it's been. And it's been this character since when was the first one? In the 50s?
Yeah. Long time.
So after, 60 plus years, now they're going to kill him off and start. There is this suspension. It's like Bart Simpson hasn't aged. We get it. James Bond is going to be around forever. We get it.
Right.
And he's going to be different.
Yeah.
And he's always going to be in that age bracket. He's never going to be 22.
Yeah.
But he's not going to be 92. So I don't know. It's interesting.
You can't get someone too young because then you're kind of stuck with them. Like Bond to me has always been older, not because of the character.
Was it Pierce Brosnan Bond once?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He's not that old.
But
he wasn't then.
But he was not young when he was Bond.
He wasn't that old.
But when you think of like some of these action movies, like when you think of like Bourne and all, like these dudes like they look like they're 25, 30. Like I've never pictured Bond as like a late 20s, early 30s character personally. Like that's never how I've envisioned him.
I get it.
To me,
and you think it's so funny because they've had Sean Connery and they obviously Pierce Brosnan was not nobody when he showed up to do it.
But
you're thinking
it
can't be an A-lister. Like it has to be somebody a little off the radar. It can't be Matt Damon.
You have to look at them and your first thought can't be that's Matt Damon. Your first thought kind of needs to be that's James Bond. And that's
so I agree with you on that. It can't be a superstar. Yeah. It has to be somebody who's it'll be under the radar, up and coming.
The other, it's a demanding role. You have to pick somebody that physically wants the role. And so what I mean by that is like they don't just want the money, they just don't want the you got to find somebody that like wants to be on a motorcycle, like wants to be jumping off of stuff, like wants to be like that's, and there are actors out there that like they don't want to do that.
I think every actor out there wants to be James Bond.
Really?
Unless you're huge and Keanu Reeves doesn't want to be James Bond because he's John Wick. Yeah. Matt Damon is Jason Bourne. Like there's all these people that
sure.
Kind of fits is Ben Affleck.
Do you want me to move on or do you want me to comment?
But you can't. I'm trying to think of somebody.
I never thought of Ben Affleck as a physical actor.
You know who one of my first thoughts was? Will Smith. Will
Smith, we might be past, but there was a time where
he's
Will
ballpark.
Smith
What is Will Smith? Mid-50s?
Yes. He's older than I thought. Because I just looked this up.
But he doesn't look like when you see Will Smith. Did you know this? I just read this, of course, because this is one of my clickbait things. When Gilligan's Island started, the guy playing the skipper was in his early 40s.
You were telling me about this.
Early 40s.
I know. You were telling me about this.
So if that guy was in it, like Will Smith looks like he's 12 compared to, this guy in his early. So anyway.
Yeah. Heather helped us out. Brosnan was 42 to 49 when he played Bond. And then real quick, just going back to the Young Frankenstein review, they open up tomorrow. And Heather says, yes, tickets are going really fast. There aren't that many of them left. So if you want to see Young Frankenstein here in Lane Sport.
And my guess is off the top of my head, it'll be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's my guess. They'll do 7 shows.
That's a good guess.
Let's
come back. I have some new movie trailers for you. We'll do this thing where like I just read to you the title, who's in it, maybe like a short synopsis, and you can give me like thumbs up, thumbs down if you want to see it.
And can I just tell you this before we start? What I will spend my idle moments doing the rest of the day is trying to think of who would be the next good Bond.
I can tell it's bothering you.
It's not. I mean, it's a little brain teaser because like. I'm going to check out this Ted Lasso guy as soon as we get off.
Sure.
But we are agreement, like Will Smith, Ben Affleck, guys who are too recognizable probably won't work.
One of my favorite ones that I've seen people mention is Idris Elba. Do you know Idris Elba?
What was he in?
He's, oh my goodness. He was on the movie where they're up in the mountain. You know him. When you look him up, you're going to be like, oh, that guy. He was in The Wire on HBO.
Never saw The Wire.
Never saw The Wire?
Never saw The Wire. And it was filmed in Baltimore. People used to talk about it. I remember being in, what was the other one? Homicide was filmed in Baltimore too.
Okay.
Standing in the grocery store line. And I was like, hey, that's him. So, yeah.
Do you want to go to sports or do you want to go to social media?
Social media.
Social media. Okay. So we're going to dive into this a little bit.
For 200.
It just came out. There you go. It just came out. Trump announces the launch of a new social media platform. I just want to read this quickly just so we have the exact details. Trump Media and Technology Group, former President Donald Trump's company, announced on Wednesday the launch of a new social network named Truth Social. A beta version will be available to invited guests in November, and the nationwide rollout is expected in the first quarter of 2022, according to a press release. The company says its mission is to create a rival to the liberal media consortium and fight back against the big tech companies of Silicon Valley. If you go to the website, the last thing I want to say to you is if you go to the website, it says follow the truth, and their statement underneath, Truth Social is America's big tent social media platform that encourages an open, free, and honest global conversation without discriminating against political ideology. And then there's a login so that you can join the waiting list. Before you say something, after seeing this and diving through it, I think it's worthwhile having the conversation what this would mean with Trump's name attached to it and what it would mean if Trump's name was not attached to it. Because if I would not have said that this was under Donald Trump's company, and I just read to you what the company line is and what the company's objective is, I feel, my hunch, is that the majority of people would be like, sign me up.
I would disagree.
But I think it's because the first thing you hear is that Trump name. And I think that's why you feel that way.
Well, let's look. Parler wasn't Trump.
But Parler's connotation and also like Parler's statement, like their actual, like what they were trying to be, was not anything close. Now listen, I'm not saying I know what.
What do you think Parler was trying to be?
Who do you think Parler? You think Parler was trying to be America's big tent social media platform?
Well, that's what they're saying.
Political.
But they say there's no political, just like every president says, I'm going to be bipartisan.
I understand. See, I think it's happening right now. I think what I'm saying to you is forget that this is Trump's platform for 2 seconds, just as a thought exercise. And if this was the actual statement of the company and this is what they were actually trying to create, most people would be like, Silicon Valley's driving me nuts. Look at how Facebook handles this stuff. Like, let's do this. And no political ideology. Let's go. I agree with you. Do I think that's what this is going to end up being, just like Parler or whatever? No. But the point I'm making is like the way they're selling this and the way that they're promoting this is ingenious.
I think
you don't think so.
No, I think they're saying what they have to say, because
they don't have to say that. Trump has the following built in. He doesn't have to. He can. If Trump wanted to say, if you believe in Trump and you believe that the election was stolen, please come here and join this waiting list. And he would get enough people to have a legitimate social media platform.
Their point is they're complaining about Facebook because Facebook is too liberal. Then they can't come out and say, well, now we're going to make one that's conservative and look at us, we're better. So they are spouting this as we are non-denominational.
Yes. And you don't find that you don't think that's smart.
Well, they're spouting it, but no, it's like the coach that shows up the first day of practice and says, all the positions are open. I have no idea who's going to be the starters are. And then he walks in with his assistant coaches and says, well, this is a starter, this is a starter, this is a starter. So they say, whatever they say is fine. Yeah. But the idea is that's what Facebook didn't come out with a liberal agenda.
Yes.
Facebook survived very well through the Bush times, and Facebook didn't become politically divided until the Trump times, when they started saying you can't just spout things that aren't true because it's becoming dangerous for society. We had an 8-year Republican president during Facebook, and there were no issues when Bush was there. There was only college kids on it when Bush was in office. But yes, continue. But you get my point. That is a valid point. Yeah. But Facebook didn't show up and say we're liberal and Facebook is like, hey, this is a meeting place. Facebook came in as totally, as we said, it was a way to find old friends and to meet girls. That's what Zuckerberg wanted.
So what are you fired up about?
Because this whole, you're like, oh, they have this They've branded it well. I think they branded it how they had to, but I think their brand is a lie. They know 98% of the people that sign up are going to be conservatives.
Listen, I have no doubt, like the idea that this is going to be America's big tent social media platform, if you want to look me in the eye and tell me that you think there's 0% chance that happens, I can't dispute you.
Oh, okay.
Like, that's not the point that I'm making.
Okay.
The point that I'm making, though, is like, there are going, like, if you go to the website right now,
yes,
it doesn't say Donald Trump anywhere. No, like if you go through the site, it looks like none of the Trump emails, the Trump campaign, the Trump brand, like none of it is involved with this. And so what I'm saying is like, if you want to talk about like opening up the umbrella and opening up the funnel and like, and basically trying to like have a platform in which people dive into it. Like, I think if from a branding marketing perspective, I am like jealous of what they have done.
Well,
it's kind of impressive because, and here's why, somebody had to sit down with Trump and someone had to say, hey, Donald, your name, like when we're trying to build this up and when we're trying to get this going, like we're not putting your name on it.
Where's that person now?
We're not putting your brand on.
What happened to that person?
Do you think he's alive?
Siberia? Is that person in?
He
is
pulled
he
it
locked
off.
in the tower?
He pulled it off.
He might not have. After he heard it from 7 people and the first 6 are floating somewhere now.
I think what's going to happen is like your reaction and I think there's going to be people that react to this and they're going to miss like people can hate Trump. I don't think Trump's like an IQ genius, but like the things that Trump gets right, it's unreal how right he is. And this is a perfect example of everyone thought it was going to be this rinky-dink like sign up and everything else, and then it comes out and I'm looking at it and I'm like somebody convinced him that this was the right way to do it, and they nailed it because there are going to be people that sign up for this that you would never imagine would have signed up for this.
Yeah, we'll see. My first thought is like it wasn't Trump's parlor. They didn't have to. They just it was parlor, and it was just understood throughout society. Hold on. It was just understood throughout society that's where the conservatives are going to go. Everyone knows it's not going to be broad. It is going to be extremely right. And what happened in Parler is people from the left that tried to go in, they would throw them out. So this whole we're going to have open discussion. No way, because you're going to have 95% of the people beating up the 5%. But I will say this. One of the brilliant aspects of it, the Drain the Swamp was brilliant.
Yes.
The fact of naming this the truth
that feels worked into this. Yes.
It is brilliant. The Make America Great was brilliant to his base.
Yeah.
What his base misses is where the racism divide, because they're like, we're not racist. They're not. Where the racism divide is when you come out with a slogan in 2014, 15, when he starts running, and his slogan is, we're going to make America great again. You are saying that America's not great right now. And right now is when they had the only black president in American history. So Trump is coming out saying America sucks right now. You elect me and I'm going to make it great like it used to be.
Okay.
And to African Americans, they're like, well, how it used to be, you wouldn't elect us. To blacks, it was the best time it had ever been. And Trump comes out, and part of his campaign was, it sucks now. We're going to make it great like it used to be. And they didn't, to his base, they loved it, but they didn't understand the racial divide that it immediately created.
How does that relate to this?
No, it's just with the slogan. The Truth is a brilliant name.
Yes.
Brilliant. Whatever, social truth, social whatever. It's just not going to.
See, this is the part of it. Like when you say like conservative, and there is no doubt that the conservative base is Trump's base. I'm not disputing that. But what I would say to people is trust me, people who think Trump loves Republicans and hates Democrats are so wrong. Trump hates anybody in his way. He really doesn't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican.
I would agree with that.
So the funny part is like people, the way they've marketed this and the way they're going to try to do this, I would argue to you, it's not even necessarily about left or right. All he's saying is like, if you want to drain the swamp and you want to do this and you want to do that, like this is a social media platform for you. This is Truth Social and this is what we're going to do and this is what we're going to talk about. Now, once people are in it, I don't know what it's about to become. I have my assumptions, as do you, as to what this platform will actually turn into and the conversations, discussions, and stuff like that. But like the idea that there are people out there that are just like, if you're not so far right, you would never consider joining this, I vehemently disagree with. Because I think what most people don't understand about Trump fans is that like they don't really view it as left-right. There are a ton of Trump supporters that like they hate some Republicans just as much as they hate some Democrats because it's literally just who's in Trump's way. So I don't even think it's a left-right question.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but it's also
Trump has done stuff to the Republicans that's just as bad or just as like he has removed Republicans out of spots and out of office that really didn't do anything that bad. Like they didn't do anything wrong. They just wouldn't do what he wanted them or needed them to do.
Correct.
Right.
But when you think of the base, like when you think of the people who are so fed up with Facebook that they need this, give me a general age demographic.
People fed up with Facebook that would want to move over to this?
Yes.
It's a tough question. Well, because this is part of it, and because I want to answer your question. The way they're setting this up, it's starting with an email list.
Okay.
Who uses an email list? Like, you know how many email lists I've joined in my life? We just don't join.
Right.
I think the email list and what they're trying to do is he knows his base is older. So instead of coming out and releasing an app or releasing it right off the bat, now there will be eventually, but you start with an email list, you pump them up. I don't know about you. My work email is signed into the Trump newsletters because just in case he announced, just in case. I mean, right now they're pumping out like 8 to 12 emails a day. It's unbelievable what the Trump campaign and marketers are doing.
Okay, but to get back to my point, Trump's base is old.
Okay.
Who likes change?
Well, nobody.
Not old people.
I would argue nobody. But
so the aspect of like how many people who are ingrained in Facebook, they get how many old people aren't on Instagram or are on it barely because they aren't on Snapchat, that their major 98% of their social media is Facebook. They get it, they like it, they're comfortable with it, they enjoy it. They're not moving, whether they're Republican or Democrat or not. Because it's like,
but you don't need, but I guess this would be because you're not wrong. I agree with you. I think you're looking at I'm not saying he's taking the majority of the market, but the thing about social media is like, you don't need the majority of the market. To have a legitimate social media company, like to have like a legitimate media company, like you really only need X amount of followers. And what I'm saying is like, he's going to get people onto this platform. There's going to be people that sign up for it because they just want to see. They're just curious what's going to be on the other side of it.
Correct. But this is what I think. The reason he did this is so he can tweet again. This is the only reason this whole, now they had to make it in a big enough way that people would join it. But he can't tweet right now. And the world is very different.
I think this is about money.
I don't think.
You don't think this is about money?
No.
I think this is 100. I think when you look at what he's when you look at Trump's portfolio and the fact that there's all these different circumstances, is he doing well? Is he not doing well? How much money does he really have? I think when you look at what he's done before, where he gets something and he flips it, whether it's golf courses, whether it's buildings, whatever it is he's doing. He does not care about anything other than the fact of controlling the asset and then flipping the asset. That's all it is. And America's the same way, controlling the asset and then flipping the asset for what you can get the most out of it. And so when I look at this, that's all it is. He's going to look to try to gain an asset and he's going to look to flip it once it's through its value or once it's not worth what it was before.
No, I disagree with that. I think
you don't think
100%
so.
about
That's what he does. It's like a golf course or a building.
But it wasn't, being president wasn't about, being president
100%.
Being president was about ego.
Oh, but part of that ego is being able to do whatever you want. That's the point. That's the point of controlling an asset. That's controlling. But
it wasn't because he needed the money. It wasn't because of the check. It was about ego. I think this is because he needs to be heard. When you scroll through Facebook, you see people post this stupid stuff.
But you're not making sense because you're saying no one's gonna see it. in one voice you're saying no one's going to see it, and I'm not trying to call you out. I'm just saying in one voice you're saying no one's going to see it, but then in the next voice you're saying like he needs to be heard. And so I'm trying to grasp the idea that he's going to be heard on a platform.
There will be people. The Trump, his core will sign up to it, and the media will sign up to it. Because immediately once Trump opens this, he's going to be posting 5 times a day like he did before.
Sure.
When he posted when he tweeted from 4 o'clock in the morning from his bathroom, it wasn't because he was saying something that was vital. It's because he loves the attention.
Sure.
So, like, he needs the attention again. And that's why this is all being created. If Twitter allowed him on, this wouldn't happen. There's no way. He would have done it while he was president.
I think, again, when it comes to Trump, I just think there are people who, and like, it's not even about supporting Trump or not supporting Trump. It's just like trying to get in the mindset of Trump. And so to you, like, you say like his ego, like, I think a lot of the stuff he tweets, to him, it is vital. So, like, what's funny is, like,
everybody's post to them, it's vital, and the rest of it, look at it, and we're like, we don't care what time you're going to bed. We don't care.
So the point that I'm making to you, though, is, like, so for you or I, it's very much like before his first election. And, like, he says stuff, and we don't think it, like, there were a lot of people in the country who didn't think the things he was saying were matter. But what they miss is that, to a lot of people in this country, it did. And it was vital. And so all I'm saying is like, when you say like, well, it's ego and it's this and that, it's not like, I'm not saying Donald Trump isn't egotistical, what politician isn't. What I'm simply saying is that I wouldn't dismiss what is vital and what isn't when Donald Trump decides to say it, because a lot of things that he says, whether you think they're crazy or on the mark or whatever it is, a lot of times half the country either agrees with it or he is saying something that is vital to them. So to dismiss it is very dangerous, is what I'm saying.
Vital's a crazy word.
There's very few things that Donald Trump says that I agree with. Very few. But when he says something, I usually dive into it because I know somewhere 50% of this country either believes it or has bought into it, or they think that it's vital. And so as a person of this country, I would be ignorant to then just dismiss it as if it's not vital or it's not a part of something this country might think is vital.
Well, and that's why
those things have to be true.
And the media will run with it, because anytime that Trump tweets something, there is so much of a base that is addicted to it. So the media will play it, so he will get the attention that he needs. The original statement of, like, I just go back to, he needed a platform to be able to speak. He can't do it on Facebook. He can't do it on Twitter. He can do it on Parler. Nobody cares. Like the big ones that anyone uses, he's not allowed on. So he needed to create his own so he could speak. And I think it's just that simple. And they can dress it up. Oh, we're going to be fair and independent. Bull. Like, it is going to be a bloodless. Like,
I'm curious to see, because I think the way that they have done this is much like, it's cleaner, it's slicker. It's, again, if I said to you Donald Trump was going to have a social media platform and you and I pulled up the website, I would have thought there'd be MAGA on the brand. I would have thought there'd be Trump on the brand.
I agree with that.
I would have thought, and again, either credit to him or the person next to him. Somebody convinced him.
Or the person who weathered that storm.
Somebody next to him convinced him, like, hey, when we first kick this off, we have to, in a way, we want to bring your brand along. Like, we want to bring your following, but we have to make sure that this is separate so that we can get other people involved with it. And it's, again, from a marketing standpoint, I'm jealous of what they've done.
The name is brilliant.
Yes.
And the irony of the name is, when you go back through the fact checkers and the thousands and thousands of things that he said that were proven to be false.
Right.
But
the marketing side of it is just undisputable. It is.
And I mean, I think he won the election with Make America Great Again, because it rallied his base, and the Drain the Swamp, which even though none of the swamp's drained, and the Republicans that have been there for, he was talking about the Joe Bidens of the world, the lifelong politicians, and that we need to get new blood. And I totally agree with that. I think a lot of Americans agree with that.
Sure.
But on the Republican side too, like it's on every side. If they would have drained the swamp, that would have been. It's a great slogan. It's too bad there's no way to do it without term limits.
That was good. I'm really, really now, like, I was curious to see how this played out. Now I'm like, in a weird way, I'm like mentally invested because I for sure thought this was going to be just a Trump brand play. And after today, this is not. Like, I'm fascinated.
Well, and because it was Trump Plaza, it was Trump University,
Sure.
It was Trump Steaks, it was Trump. Yep. It was on everything. I'm shocked too. When you asked me what the name was, I was trying to come up with a blend of Trump and Twitter.
Okay.
And because that's what I said to you, and I'm not coming up with the clever play because I would have bet a lot of money that Trump was in it somewhere. And the fact that they just went with truth is it is brilliant.
I'm shocked they pulled it off.
And I can see the guy in the meeting, if it's a one-on-one meeting, that he says, I don't think your name should be involved in it. And then he probably went like this because the onslaught was coming. But it worked. They got it through.
MLB Playoffs. You watched it last night.
This is what's crazy about baseball. And like any other sport, I mean, momentum can switch, and we've had great, like the one when the Patriots and the Falcons in the Super Bowl when everything just fell apart. And you can see in basketball momentum switches all the time and teams go on runs. Houston was dead in the water. They were awful. In the last 11 innings, they have outscored Boston in Boston 17-1.
Say that one more time.
In the last 11 innings, 17-1. And they were getting throttled. They won game one, then they lost, and they were losing. And then all of a sudden now they score at will. And that's just not how the baseball playoffs work. The Dodgers are defending world champions in Atlanta. It was almost a sweep. They had a lead and the Dodgers rallied. Then yesterday they crushed them again. So it has been unpredictable. The boring, what we're kind of like 3-2, 2-1. The pitchers just go out and dominate. The bats have been good. One of the reasons is the weather has been so good. I told you yesterday they have an October whatever playoff game in Boston. It's 70 degrees. Yeah, like it's supposed to be 52, and it's a lot harder to hit when it's cold than when it's 70 degrees. Yeah, but it's been nuts. It has really been nuts. And
what's your prediction?
We're this close. I mean, just the way it's going, I think Boston's going to go to Houston and score 20 runs tomorrow. So I think it's going to game 7. Atlanta is they're up 3-1. They're almost up 4-0. They're up 3. I think Atlanta's got to get through now. And they are a little bit of Destiny's darling. As we said, they lost their best player in the middle of the season. Yeah. So that's a death blow to most teams in any sport. And they've just they're playing better, which isn't because there's not a chemistry thing. It just happened.
I thought the Destiny's darling thing's very spot on. I've been very fortunate. Carolina fan. I was a Colts fan. I was a Braves fan growing up. I was Chicago because what kid in the 90s wasn't a Chicago Bulls fan? I've been very fortunate.
The ones who like to be miserable.
Yeah. I've been very fortunate because up through just getting into the playoffs and getting to watch championships won and all those things. But I've never gotten to experience kind of the underdog run. I've never gotten to experience the Destiny run. We're not really supposed to, we're good, but we're not really supposed to be here. But oh my God, everything's kind of falling into place. And that's why I said the other day, this has been one of the more enjoyable things in baseball I've ever enjoyed with this Atlanta Braves team.
Here's one of the neat stories from the Red Sox Houston game, which you only know if you watch the game. The pitcher from Houston, some 27-year-old, I can't remember his name, lefty, Dominican. But anyway, he pitched great last night. Mm-hmm. And they were telling the story when he was discovered. I assume it was in the Dominican Republic, but they're on this scouting mission. And the scout that discovered him had been at 5 different tryout camps that day. Right. So just imagine you're watch another kid throw, watch another kid throw, watch another kid hit. And they're just looking for anyone that kind of jumps off the page at him. They said this kid was at the 5th of 5. And by the time he finally got to the mound, it was getting so dark that the guy had to turn on his car headlights to be able to see this kid pitch. Huh. And then he's like, oh, wait a minute, he's really good. And now he's pitching in the playoffs for Houston. So
Okay.
That's just one of the cute little dumb stories of the world.
Stories that comes along with it. NBA opening night. One of the things that I want to talk to you about, because I'm sure you didn't get to see like all the scores. And I mean, there's a ton of games, and honestly, early season basketball isn't the greatest basketball in the world.
I will say this: it is to get tickets. My son, we went. My son and I and a friend and his dad. My son loved James Harden, and this is back when he was in Houston. And Houston would only come to Philadelphia once a year because that was their West Coast, East Coast. Right. And it was like the last week of October. It was like the fourth game of the season. And we got really cheap tickets to Philadelphia, considering what their tickets are in March or around Christmas or whatever. And so if it's on your bucket list of like, I want to see this guy playing, other than Alizé or, but if you have I'd love to get to a game. Go in October, November, because you can go to StubHub and do a lot better than you can around Christmas or into January.
Okay. So one of the things that happened last night, LaMelo Ball almost had a triple-double. I believe he had 31 points, and then he had like 9 and 8 with it as well. He is the whole Ball story, right? LeVar Ball.
Wait, is he in Chicago?
He's in Charlotte.
Who's the one in Chicago?
Lonzo's
in Charlotte. So this is the youngest brother?
This is the youngest brother.
Okay.
I believe he ended up being the number 2 pick last year. For those of just the quick rundown of the family,
Dad is crazy.
Dad is out there. Yes, Dad's out there. He coached his son's AAU teams throughout high school. He proclaimed that they were going to be like the greatest thing ever. And there were a lot of people when LaMelo Ball was coming up through. He dropped out of high school when he was like a sophomore. He went and played overseas. He played in Australia. He tried to play in the startup league his dad started for younger kids. And so he didn't get lost in the shuffle, but there was this idea that like he was more of a clown or a show pony than an actual basketball player. And he is in his second year now. He won Rookie of the Year last year by like a landslide. And last night in the opening night had 31, 9, and 8. And he is so good. And there's a freedom to how he plays. When I watch LaMelo Ball play, I almost question everything we think about in youth sports. Because the confidence he plays with and the freedom he plays with and the natural instincts that he possesses could only occur through the path that he has taken.
How big is he?
6'6", 6'5". So in the world of the NBA, in the normal world, he's massive. In the world of the NBA,
he's a normal guy.
He is your normal wing player in the NBA, and he's not buff. Like he's still I bet you he's still just over 200 pounds. Like
he's like 20, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, he'll be so much bigger at 28 than he is at 20.
I would think
20, you're still just a kid.
But you'll appreciate kind of the psychology of this quote. He made a quote before the season that, people used to pick on his dad and call him out because his dad thought his sons could do anything. And he said, I played with a lot of kids who they didn't have a dad. Like their dad wasn't around. And here I had a dad who took me everywhere. He started a basketball league for me. Like he moved to Australia with me. Like he did all of these things for me to be successful. And you guys all pick on him. And meanwhile, I walk into locker rooms and no one's dad is there.
Well, what's funny about that? It is, and I'm sure from white society, there's a racial connotation to it. But he's very much Richard Williams from Venus and Serena Williams because their dad was like that. And, he was the one, he taught them everything. And when they were young, he was this prominent figure in their life. It was very Tiger Woods-ish. Mm-hmm. When he was young, dad is this very prominent figure. It's almost like we're partners.
Right.
And then as they got older and more successful, now all of a sudden, because it got to the point, I guess, like Nike told Tiger's dad, Earl Williams, Earl Woods, sorry. Yeah. They're like, dude, you need to and go away, and we'll take care of it from here. This is what we do. You're not helping. Mm-hmm. And the same thing happened with Serena. I assume her dad's still alive. I haven't.
There's a movie coming out about Richard.
But you've seen videos of him. They're from Compton, mm-hmm. On the tennis courts of Compton, that he's there hitting balls with these kids. Now, the other aspect is there are tens of thousands of these dads who didn't have, when you look
Sure.
at the physical gifts that Venus and Serena had and that Tiger had, and that, if you're a dad and you start a basketball for your kid, if he's 5'11", he ain't going. If he's 6'6", it changes things. But no, I do. But at the same point, the reason that he's a devoted father, no doubt about it. The reason society makes fun of him for being crazy is he is crazy. The sneaker deal that he tried to start with his other kid, Big Ballers?
Can I run with the word crazy? Because it's a good point that you bring up, because part of what LaMelo Ball has talked about in interviews before is like, isn't everybody's dad crazy? Like, then it isn't everybody's.
No.
But this was his point, was like, at some point your dad did something that you looked and you were like, oh, this guy's a crazy person.
Yes.
It doesn't mean you didn't love him, and it doesn't mean, but you were like, oh my God, like this guy's losing his mind.
It's all of our parents, because they're trying to ruin our lives. As teenagers, that's our parents' job.
But that was his other point. He's like, listen, like everybody's dad there's different levels of crazy. He goes, my dad just happens to be in front of a microphone and a TV. And he's like, how many other people's dads, if you put them in front of a microphone and a TV, would say their son's great and their son's this and their son? He said it just, so to him, he was like, it's all context.
No, and I get that, but there's also other people that are, Tom Brady's dad could have found any microphone he wanted and he didn't. And there are lots of dads who are like, listen, I don't need to be part of the show. My kid's part of the show. I'll help my kid from behind the scenes. And what's his name? Ball?
LeVar.
LeVar, if you turn on a camera, he's going to jump in front of it.
I don't disagree with that.
So it's not, there's lots of dads who could have taken this. There's lots of, I can't even picture Tom Brady's dad. Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time. I don't know what his dad looks like.
Right. This will be the last thing that I would say about it. I don't know if LeVar Ball has ever said anything that was awful. Like, he has certainly said things that were extravagant. He has said things that maybe were untrue in the sense of like the capabilities of his sons, but he's never defamed anybody. He's never talked like significantly poorly. It's like he doesn't get on there and he's like,
didn't he say he could beat Michael Jordan in one-on-one?
Yeah, but he didn't say like Michael Jordan's he didn't say Michael Jordan is a racist or Michael Jordan is the point I'm making is,
but when you say I could beat Michael Jordan in one-on-one, you lose credibility.
And what I'm saying, yes, and what I'm saying to you though is like, if you walk downtown Williamsport right now to Alizé's Park, some dude's out there shooting a basket saying they could have beaten Michael Jordan.
And you know what we think about that guy?
That he's crazy. But the point I'm making to you is like, but that doesn't make him a bad person. That's the point I'm making.
And that's a fair point.
LeVar Ball has never said something on a microphone as a father or as a supporter that ever made me be like, oh, that guy's just not a good person.
That is a fair point. I think
crazy, but not a bad, like he's never, but people act like he's a bad person. And after like listening to LaMelo talk and like really diving into it, I don't think he's a bad person.
That's fair.
He can be annoying and he can be obnoxious, but he's never think of the modest,
let me step in his defense.
Think of the modest, polite people that like lose their mind and say like the worst thing you could think of. But then this guy's like, because he's annoying and obnoxious, but he's never said a bad thing.
No, I get it. But now, in his defense, everyone's annoying and everyone's obnoxious. It just comes and goes.
Sure.
But no, that is valid. I mean, in the basketball world, he came out with the sneakers, which was a terrible idea, which flopped monstrously, and he made it embarrassing. What was it called? Big Ballers?
Big Baller brand.
Big Baller brand, and they were
was funny.
Was like $5,000 a pair.
Well, it was funny because it was triple B, BBB. Okay. So he actually put brand in the name, which is like kind of like a taboo, like a no-no, because like Big Baller is the brand.
Right.
So it should have been double B, not triple Bs. So the whole thing was kind of.
But the other aspect too is when his first kid shows up and he's the greatest basketball player you'll ever see, and he shoots 37% from the foul line and 19% from the three-point line, then you kind of step back and say, listen, if your kid's a really great basketball player, he should be able to shoot.
Yeah.
That's like saying he's the greatest baseball player and he can't hit. or he can't throw strikes, or he's the greatest wide receiver. He just doesn't catch the ball well. Like, so in there's a lot of aspects where he talked a lot and he was continually losing credibility. I can beat Jordan. My kid's the greatest. I'm going to make these sneakers that are going to change the world. And everywhere he was wrong. And that's why America thinks he's crazy.
But we say we're almost Emmy nominated.
We are almost Emmy nominated.
There you go. So are we crazy?
No, because we're not Emmy nominated yet.
Yet.
But we're on our way.
We were almost there. 10 seconds, Penn State prediction.
Is a quarterback? Clifford's out, right?
I have not.
It drives me nuts with the whole Penn State. We won't release what he's. Yeah. They'll say it's a typical injury. The speculation is it's a rib.
Penn State or Illinois? I make two choices. If Sean Clifford plays,
if Sean Clifford is healthy, they'll kill him.
If Sean Clifford does not play,
I am very anxious to see what this backup does. Having had 2 weeks of practice with, if he plays like he played in Iowa, they could lose. But I'm assuming he's a Penn State recruit. He's got to be better than he looked. He probably got very, very little reps at practice with the starting team. Now it's his job for 2 weeks. He's been the focus. I got to believe he plays much better. But does he? It's still his first college start, and his only college experience went horribly. Yeah. This is an interesting game.
No, it really is. It'll be curious to see what happens. Real quick, because I wanted to do this before you leave. New movies coming out. New movie is called Uncharted. By the way, these 3 trailers all just dropped like today.
Okay.
Uncharted. It has Tom Holland, who's the new Spider-Man.
Okay.
It has Mark Wahlberg.
I'm in it. I'm going.
You're in. You're going. Uncharted is an upcoming American action-adventure film. Basically, they are on a treasure hunt trying to discover a lost brother's treasure.
Ah, sold.
You're in. Uncharted. You're going.
It's like National Treasure. Like the treasure hunt movies are great.
Okay.
I'm sold.
Okay, you're in. So Uncharted, Mark's in.
How about Mark Wahlberg as like an American, like borderline playing like the white trashish Bond?
See, I don't think Wahlberg. There's like this sounds so corny. There's a sleekness to Bond that. Wahlberg
I know. Bond is polished and sophisticated. That's why I said white trashish.
But I don't think Wahlberg's white trash either. Like it's just a weird.
Oh, but he could play it.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
That's interesting. I just saw him in The Departed again. When's the last time you've seen The Departed?
I saw The Departed within a year.
Dude, his role in The Departed as Magnum, like he's like the backup guy to the head, and he's just like throwing out the Boston accent, and he's like harassing everybody. It is, watching it again, it is even better than what I remember it. He's really good.
You don't think in The Fighter he kind of has that white trashish?
Well, I mean, but even that's different because it's like that's like a Boston. Like when I think even in that movie, it's not like a trailer park. Like it's the society that he's in is more of like a downtown Boston, and to me, that's not really what you're describing.
No, I guess you're right. No, I know what you're saying. He's just. I'm trying to think of the most polished character he's ever played now, because he is that rough and tumble. He plays a guy who's at any moment 10 seconds away from a fist fight. He also
plays a guy who like the past has not worked out for him.
Yes.
And with Bond, the past always works.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I don't know.
And I know he couldn't work. That's why I said Will Smith, because he could do the polish.
Yeah. No, I certainly.
But Wahlberg is and that would be another. Has he ever made a bad movie?
Wahlberg?
Yeah, he's underrated.
He's certainly underrated, but he's made some bad. Like he did The Spencer and Disputed on Netflix recently, which was fine, but it wasn't a good movie.
I never saw that, but
I enjoyed him in the Ted movies.
The Ted, yes.
Okay. Here's the second trailer that came out today. It's called Ambulance.
Okay.
Ambulance. Okay. This is a Michael Bay movie. Do you like Michael Bay movies?
Give me one.
Bad Boys.
Okay.
All the Bad Boy movies.
Okay.
All the Transformers.
Never saw one.
Okay, so that's not. He is like the explosives guy. Like Michael Bay is like the high intensity. We're blowing this up and we're knocking that over, and
the high explosions are overrated.
Okay. Michael Bay directed. Jake Gyllenhaal is the lead. Yahya Abdul-Mahal is the second. If you don't know him, you're gonna know him. He's an up and comer. A pair of thieves try to pull off a bank robbery in downtown Los Angeles. When the heist goes wrong, the two hijack an ambulance to make their getaway as the movie ensues.
I'm sure it'll be fun.
Okay.
Will it be my favorite movie of all time? No.
Okay.
But
are you in or out?
This is the thing. I will see it. I will stumble across it someday.
Okay.
I'm not one for the 30-minute car chases.
Okay.
Especially at the beginning when you're like, listen, I know they're getting out of it. Like, let's get on to the story. No, they're not dying. The star's not dying 25 minutes in. You can shoot at him as many times as you want.
If you're having a heist and Jake Gyllenhaal is in it, I'm probably going. I'm probably in on the movie. Is there a chance Jake Gyllenhaal is now our most underrated actor?
He
is incredible.
Is he?
He just doesn't pick like Oscar, Emmy stuff. But the stuff he does he's so good in it. Have you ever seen like Brothers? Like, you ever seen Prisoners? Like, have you ever that's the stuff like he got overlooked in, and then he was like, in a weird way, he was kind of like, all right, I'm just going for the money now. And then he's really good in Nightcrawler.
I saw Nightcrawler.
He's so just unique in his range. Have you ever seen Zodiac?
I saw Zodiac.
He's so good. Like, he's just so good and underrated. And it's like his name never gets brought up in any of this stuff.
Don't leave out your favorite. Go ahead.
Which one?
Brokeback.
Brokeback. That's right. What's wrong with Brokeback?
I'm just saying.
You said it as if I had a problem with it.
No, I'm just saying.
Okay.
Don't leave it out.
Okay, so this is a no-brainer, but I'm going to ask it the same way I did before. This one is called Red Notice.
I'm probably out, but go
no,
ahead. I don't like
you're
the title.
in. You're
like
in. You
title.
just don't know it. This movie is going to star Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. It's also going to star Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman. And last but not least, the world's greatest con man is played by Ryan Reynolds.
If Dwayne Johnson and what's her name, Gal Gadot, if they had a child in real life, what are the odds that the child was actually born a superhero?
Pretty high. It might just start walking when it comes out.
With a cape and everything.
Yes.
Just like, here is your kid.
Red Notice is a Netflix movie. It's in the world of international crime. An Interpol agent attempts to hunt down and capture the world's most wanted art thief with the help of the world's second most wanted art thief.
See, and this takes us back to Pierce Brosnan. Did you watch Thomas Crown?
Why not The Rock for Bond?
No.
No?
No, he's Bond.
Does Bond still have to be British? That's another good question.
Well, yeah, I think, but
it's Idris Elba then. Idris Elba. You're going to look up Idris Elba, and you're going to be like, oh yeah, this is Bond.
Bond has to be sleek and sophisticated, and
it's Idris Elba.
Like that's the part where Mark Wahlberg, who's great, he's not drinking a martini. That's Mark Wahlberg's drinking a beer.
In or out on Red Notice?
Oh. I'm totally in.
This is what I've been.
I'm of the hope that at some point in a Gal Gadot gets naked, but I'm guessing she won't.
It's Netflix.
Yeah, but she doesn't need it.
Why you don't want The Rock to get naked?
No,
it has to be Gal.
That doesn't. That does not.
Doesn't have to. Has to be Gal Gadot.
Of the ones that you listed. See, now you would want Ryan Reynolds to be naked. Of the three that you listed,
I'm in it for the artistic approach. I don't want
Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, or Gal Gadot. I will take her being naked over the other two. Call me crazy.
I'm there for the art and the story, and I'm there for the acting. I don't need them to be naked.
Well, I don't need it. I said I'm hoping for it.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, that's going to be good.
It's going to be really good.
Yeah, what was the first one? The Treasure Hunters. Who's in that one?
Uncharted.
Who's in it?
Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg.
Oh yeah, those are good. The guys rob a bank and drive away in an ambulance.
I think Tom Holland's British.
Where everything blows up. That would be far and away the third. I went to see the one. You saw the one in the theater too, or you saw River Queen Quest whatever with The Rock in it. River Cruise.
Oh, Jungle Cruise.
Jungle Cruise.
River Queen.
Well, you know what I
Quest.
meant. I was getting there.
Let's write that tonight. River Queen.
River Queen Quest Cruise. Foods that start with Q. Yes, The Rock is. I would suspect with The Rock and Dwayne Johnson, it's funny.
Yes.
And The Rock's comedic timing is so underrated.
Oh yeah.
That is what sold him as the big, rough, tough action hero.
Yes.
But he's funny.
That movie won't win awards, but for what Netflix is trying to do from a streaming perspective, they have 2 movies that are coming up that I think are going to break their records. And this is one of them just because of The Rock and Reynolds and Gadot. But they have another one, The Don't Look Up, and that's with Jennifer Lawrence. It has Leonardo DiCaprio. It has Jonah Hill. It's loaded. I think those 2 movies are going to put Netflix into, like, in a weird way, Netflix, I think, is just scratching the surface. Like, they are.
I would agree with that.
Take over. Because those 2 movies would typically be the things that people would be like wanting to go to the theater for, and they're going to be at Netflix. Red Notice is literally a dominant weekend box office hit, and it's not going to be there.
Yeah,
you're going to be sitting at home on your couch,
or on your couch.
I don't have a couch. I'm homeless. Thank you guys.
By the way,
watching.
Back to Brokeback. Heath Ledger was better in Brokeback than Jake Gyllenhaal.
I mean, that it's tough now just because of his passing. I think it's always hard to judge the work of an artist after they pass away, because there's just a stronger sentiment and emotion once they are gone, especially when they pass early, like Heath did. So I stand by my statement. You stay by your statement? I think it's almost impossible to judge it, because I think most people would say that just instinctually based off of what happened to him.
Maybe. I don't know. My favorite Heath Ledger movie is A Knight's Tale.
That's so good. I remember that.
It is so good.
Who's the pudgy comedian who had his own show on CBS for a while? He's like his squire or whatever.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of him.
Now I can't think of what his name is. He had his own show. I'm pretty sure he just passed away like in the last 4
Really?
years. Yeah, pretty sure. Because he was in Game of Thrones too. He's in like the 1st or 2nd season of Game of Thrones.
I didn't know that.
And I think he's passed.
Knight's Tale is so much fun.
Okay.
So there you go.
All right. Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Thank you to all of our sponsors, and be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news. I think we need to talk about the Dave Chappelle special, because eventually it's going to.
We will.
It's going to run past us.
The Braves could finish it off tonight. How about this? Probably not tonight. I probably won't get to it tonight. I will get to it over the weekend, or if not, you can punch me in the face.
That deal. Can I auction off the punch in the face? No, I can't. I can't give it away on the prize wheel when it comes back this holiday season.
We would make a little bit of money.
If we put punch Mark in the face in the holiday prize wheel coming back this winter, through the roof.
You know what we should do?
What?
As we're thinking out loud, because nobody's listening anymore. Oh my God, we've been here an hour. We should have a. No, I'm not even going to say this out loud, because this is a good idea, and I don't want to give it away. Okay, we're going to talk as soon as we get off the air.
All right. Thank you for watching the Midday Show. That was the worst ending. That was either the worst or the best ending to any show.
It's a good idea. I don't want to give it away, because somebody's going to take it.
I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina. Thanks for watching the Midday Show.